Truth is the authority.
All right, first thing, bring your A game because I'll take nothing less.
I mean, we don't need more regulations. We need far less of them.
We're going to have an open and honest discussion, but the numbers are what matter. The facts matter. Forget about the Republicans and the Democrats for a minute. Let's talk about the people.
I've lived the American dream, and I want so many more people to be able to live the American dream.
My show is what it says. It's common sense.
We've jettisoned political correctness.
It's principles and policies that work for everybody. I just want to talk about how to fix this country.
The David Webb Show.
I thought about it, and just a few days ago, and oddly enough, not as much as I think in past years, April 1st occurred. April Fool's Day. Are we living in a perpetual April Fool's Day where, for lack of a better term, we the people are the fools? And governments and corporations and leftist, corporatists, globalists, corruptocrats, and others continue to work against our best interest while claiming our best interest. It's continual. It is an April Fool's Day every day. And no matter what the issue is, it seems as if everyone, political or otherwise, needs to weigh in on whatever side. And we've gone from natural tension between various elements of society into a forced tug of war in just about every issue. Heck, even baseball's not immune. No sport's immune. Remember, sports used to be the escape. Now they're at the center of a lot of these debates. But we'll put that aside for a moment because I want to go a little bit wider and bring it home. And, I will often ask the question on your behalf, if you will, rhetorically on the air, well, why does this matter to me? Down on Main Street, somewhere on a highway, a county road, or even inside a big corporation in the United States, Wall Street, or oil out in Texas, or somewhere in the hinterlands, wherever. Why does this matter to me? In this case, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is making the argument for a global minimum corporate tax rate. So, as she makes the case domestically for Biden's plan to raise the U.S. corporate taxes to fund his $2.25 trillion plus infrastructure plan, since it cannot stand alone and the globalists must have their way, of which Yellen is one and Biden is a corruptocrat, and that's part of that unnatural cooperative agreement or working plan that they have. Yellen, speaking to the Chicago Council on Global Affairs, pushing for an increase in the global tax rates for corporations. The U.S. needs to fund, well, maybe not the U.S., but the Biden administration needs to fund their spending proposal. There isn't enough money being sucked out of the pockets of Americans, businesses, individuals, whatever the case may be, so they need more. And what we see, instead of a race to the top as a nation, is a forced run to the top when it comes to tax rates. Raising taxes on individuals, corporations, they're one and the same. Raising taxes on multinationals and corporations. Well, I know, I can hear it now. Well, these companies make enormous revenue. They take in a lot of it. Their CEOs get hundreds of millions of dollars in stock. And so it really doesn't matter to me. I'm just trying to survive, and I'm an American. I'm just trying to get through today. Well, it does matter to you. because this global push, this global system, which has failed many other nations, is now seemingly on steroids, at least in its proposals and in this form. But the plans have been laid right here in the United States. Remember, during the Trump years, the U.S. tax rate went from 35% to 21%, right? For a variety of reasons. Average corporate rate, for example, in the G7 is 24%. Biden's plan would also raise, in addition to the corporate rate, and who knows what they'll do with individual tax rates, helped along by those blue states in some cases. But the Biden plan would also raise the international minimum rate for foreign profits on U.S. companies from 10.5% to 21%. Oh, good. That's going to be lower than the 28% domestic corporate tax rate. Isn't that a good thing? But 10.5% to 21% is a doubling of that tax rate. Who pays the tax? The building, the oil well, the airplane, the ship, the tanker, the truck, or the person that's driving it. See, this is where the rub really, really hurts. All these increases, not individually they're bad enough, but combined, will tear apart your personal economy. The tax code's convoluted enough. Millions of words, special interest carve-outs, subsidies, all of this that we're not going to peel away anytime soon. But if they just raise everything, or at least enough things across the board, it may draw in, and it will draw in, more revenue for the Biden administration to spend against your will. But that pendulum comes right back and smacks you in the face. Because, in effect, you're paying for it now. You're paying to repay it in the future in some form. You're losing value. And your children and grandchildren, our children and grandchildren, will continue to be stuck with this economic albatross around our necks. Yellen has been out there as the Treasury Secretary trying to convince the business community and Wall Street that this infrastructure proposal on top of the $1.9 trillion stimulus package won't lead to inflation. They never talk about devaluation of the currency, devaluation of the value of the dollar. She wants $650 billion in new special drawing rights, essentially lines of credit at the International Monetary Fund. What does that do? That helps developing countries, as they put it. Developing is an important good word. It's a good word. Who doesn't want to help developing countries? Access U.S. dollars. So now more of your money goes overseas, where it is either misspent, stolen, or outright abused in every which way possibly. And very often it does not help the people they claim they're going to help. Come on, we've seen this play for decades now. Doesn't matter who's in Washington. American dollars go out of the country into other pockets, and you just keep working to fund this. So pay close attention. Remember, what does this matter to you? How does this affect you? Instead of cutting rates, removing subsidies where possible, beginning to peel back and use a pro-growth structure to grow, at least in some way, grow our way inch by inch to climb this mountain of debt and devaluation combined. The goal here under the Biden administration and the Treasury Secretary and the interested parties, we'll call them that, in whatever form, elected or otherwise, is to drive us closer to the failure that we've seen in the European Union economically, one which does not have a stable economic foundation, no matter how many ways they tell you. It doesn't exist. It's on paper. Again, more of these, I guess you can call it the economic Neville Chamberlain white paper, economic prosperity in our time. It's on paper there. It must be true. It's not. I have no pretense, no Pollyannish view that this will change. Tax rates, tax structures, and other things will be redone. Subsidies where they're no longer needed will be removed. Your tax dollars will be either not taken, okay, I'm going to be really Pollyannish now, not taken from you in these enormous amounts, or returned to you, probably more realistically, for you to use. You know, that unrestricted, that interest-free loan that you give the government every year, and on April 15th, just days away, you file. Well, they give us a little more time this time, again, because of COVID, but, you know, you file and you hope to get just a pittance back for all your hard labors. Look, there's no doubt that we need a tax structure, right? A society has to be supported. And that's fine within the boundaries of reasonable taxation. We can all generate revenue, generate income, and pay some form of tax, which helps support the basic needs and responsibilities of government and the society. You know, just to use the constant argument, yeah, we do need good roads and bridges and other forms of infrastructure. And we want a system that supports and helps and lifts those up so that they can go out. See, that's the key word, out and off the dole, off the public dole. But that's not what this is. Tax Foundation analysis shows that Biden's plan to raise corporate tax rates would reduce GDP. Remember, we have mounting debt. How many of you look at the debt clock every day? Don't do it. Just don't do it. I'll do it on your behalf. I look about four times a week, probably. But if you reduce GDP, which is, you know, traditionally the big measure, right? The broadest measure of goods and services produced in the country, what do? You eliminate jobs. The Tax Foundation says that if you reduce GDP by 0.8%, you would eliminate somewhere around 159,000 jobs. You would reduce worker wages by 0.7%. Oh, that's not much. It's 0.7. David, why wouldn't you want to pay a little more? It's for the good of society. Well, those 159,000 jobs lost, give or take, whatever the real number would be, would matter to those people who then no longer generate any form of economic, something on the positive side, I guess, if you will. Where does this end? In 2020, 10 countries made changes to their statutory corporate income tax rates, lowering them. Micronesia did that. They increased. 9 countries, rather, lowered. Armenia, Belgium, Colombia, France, French Polynesia, Greenland, Monaco, Togo, and Zimbabwe. How many of those are really in the European Union? 1. Well, 2, Belgium. I guess we'll have to call them part of it. Not sure where Greenland is. Fly over it. It's ice. But here we go again. It's leftist idea that if we take in control, then we will do for you what is best on your behalf, even if it doesn't make economic sense. Now, here's a dirty part of this. Why would corporations support this? And many do. Because corporations on that level, multinationals especially, can act effectively like governments. They have such an economic impact. It gives them an enormous influence in government policy. So while you and I get hit with the effects, the realities, or the taxes, the corporations get their carve-outs, their subsidies. And again, I don't have a problem with corporations earning money. If they don't earn money, they die. People lose jobs. The economy dies. But when corporations become pseudo-governments with that level of influence, they influence government, government influences corporations, and they work together for their interests, which isn't always, well, our interests or needs. So the globalists are coming. The globalists in the form of global policy. It's here. 866-95-PATRIOT, 957-2874. The country that gave us paper currency now launching its own digital currency, first for a major economy. I won't say what country it is, but it matters to this discussion. I'll be right back.
After the news breaks, we analyze and clarify. You form opinions. The David Webb Show.
So the country that gave us paper currency, you know what it is? 1,000 years ago, money meant coins, Chinese cash coins. I still have some in my collection from when I was a kid. China invented the paper currency, and now the Chinese government is minting cash digitally. That's a major change, and it matters. The U.S. is the reserve currency. The dollar is the reserve currency. Think about energy. Think about all the things that really matter to the support of our systems, our function as a country, the world for that matter. I know many of you think, money's already virtual, right? We transfer electronically. I use an app, but that's not what we're talking about here. China is literally turning legal tender into computer code. And don't think that in a communist-run country, this is all for the good of the people. Analysts taking a look at this, and I've done my points and my research, have come to a pretty even conclusion across the board that this would give the Chinese government all these new tools to monitor both the economy and its people. China already lies about its economy. They have control. So a digital yuan for international use is the next step, untethered to the global financial system, giving a communist nation control of at least the perception, if not the reality, I guess, as they see fit when it comes to their finances. This is a push to gain more centralized control, to get ahead of other nations and to control financial structures. And at the same time, you have an authoritarian system in the Chinese Communist Party that through the use of a national digital yuan will be able to monitor, will be able to control, will be able to respond, and maybe even, if they so desire, as they delete people from public view in some way or another, delete someone or a corporation financially even more. Oh, come on, David. It's cryptocurrency transparency. That doesn't really happen, really. See, this is where policy and technology collide. All the great technologies around you, all the security systems, all these things, they require policy. Policy in some form, security policy, political policy. These are written and enacted and maintained by people. No computer creates a policy, but a policy can affect, maybe not create, but can affect what a computer does, in this case, digital currency. And right now, the U.S. dollar, which again, the world's reserve currency in international foreign exchange trades, The U.S. currency is somewhere close to 90%. The yuan, just 4%. So rather than, if they were a free society, grow in their economy, the Chinese Communist Party is looking to make the yuan a rival for the dollar in bank-to-bank wire transfers. And this could affect the international financial system, which, see, this is where it ties together. Think about those major corporations, those governments around the world, some already bound to China by their various activities with economic power, political power, the Belt and Road Initiative, their growing acquisition of influence in many parts of the world. Now, if they provide a direct challenge, they can use that power to force other governments to comply. And if you think, well, it can't be, it's their entree to the world. China's entering the world economy even more. They're being more open. Well, the digital yuan first appears on the screen of any device with a representation of communist leader and murderer of millions, Mao Zedong. So, while they've tested with, just a small amount of their 1.4 billion people thus far, over 100,000 Chinese are involved in this first rollout. They're spending small government handouts of digital cash with American-based corporations, for that matter, like McDonald's and Starbucks. You can settle your debts, pay your dues. The digital yuan is on the way. It's just the next step. 866-95-PATRIOT, 957-2874. Arkansas. Joe, go ahead.
Hi, David. Good morning. I think that it's vastly underreported about these corporate monopolies that control policy at all levels of government. So I'm from Northwest Arkansas, and we have the home offices of Walmart in our area, and it is unknown to most people the influence they have on state and national politics, whereas they portray themselves as, the store for common people, the Walmart shoppers and whatnot. But their policies reflect, I think, pandering to the LGBT, the hate, the trans, the Chinese. It's really underreported that Walmart is in this area, and they have such an influence on policy, but yet they purport to be, a hometown type business.
Well, look, they started out, if you think about Walmart's beginnings, provide goods at lower cost, right? Not a bad idea. I'm not against that idea. But a couple things happened along the way. American manufacturing went down, Chinese cheap manufacturing, other countries' cheap manufacturing went up. By the way, I'm not against import strategy for a corporation because that's reasonable. I would then counter that with where does it come from, who makes it, and, what is it like in that country? How does it benefit both sides? Because the corporation has a right to a profit. But Walmart has grown so big that they do get to act in some ways like a pseudo-government with that influence on policy. It's how they exercise it. And I think we're starting to see a shift in that, Joe, because I'm hearing more and more from people who, not just with respect to Walmart, but other online sellers or big box stores that sell online or, whatever that is. People get things and they see they're made in China if they don't do the research beforehand. Like, where does my table come from? Who makes my table? Where is it being shipped from? That they're sending it back. So these corporations may find themselves in a more difficult position as this grows, if it grows, where people want products only from countries where, at least for lack of a better term, it's a free country versus a communist regime.
Well, we we in Arkansas seem to gravitate towards China as economic development partners, right up to the governor. But one thing I wanted to mention that I think is important is when you have a business started by, like you said, low cost, really good business model, very successful, and now it's being guided by second and third generation heirs to the throne, so to speak. This is what naturally happens. You've got second and third generation people making decisions, and then you've got consolidation of the marketplace. I mean, look, what are your choices today? You've got Target, Costco, Walmart, Amazon. The consolidation of retail, as well as other industries, makes it an easy partner for government to take advantage of the system, and they're certainly not out for the average person's interest.
But watch this closely, Joe, because something else, because of COVID, I would say majority of the effect comes from the COVID-19 pandemic, which is now finally tapering off. But something happened. A lot of these chains, we had an oversupply of retail. We had too much retail in this country. You go to a mall, there are 5 stores with the same type of product under different names owned by 2 different corporations. Local market agreements, you name it, whatever the case may be. And a lot of them failed because they just were not sustainable. So I wonder how much of an effect that's going to have on the economy as we come out of COVID, because those stores that closed were already not, many of them were not viable. They were being propped up by cash cow components within these corporations, these holding companies, holding groups that bought these chains. So
Right.
now you have that empty commercial real estate. They're not going to suddenly reopen in July or August of this year because they can't. They don't have the ability, or they don't have the viability. So it'll be interesting to see what that effect is on retail. And then as Americans make more and more choices, and, manufacturing didn't come back the way we wanted it in America on goods and services, but other countries are competing, Vietnam in furniture and others, I would say better competitors on the trade market. So let's see how that flushes out. I think we're in an interesting economic time, and that's why I want to talk about it.
Well, there's a lot to talk about there, all the way from minimum wage to tax policy that is driven more so than most recognized by corporatist strategies to consolidate the market, force out small businesses, and then control policy and population through their government partnerships.
It'll be interesting to watch the next year or so. I mean, it's always interesting to me. Maybe it's not to everybody listening, and you're wondering, why is he off? But, I don't always want to talk about Major League Baseball and their troubles and their hypocrisies. Joe, thanks for the call. And there's a right sizing to this. And what we're seeing in this economy right now is a right sizing of many sectors of our economy. Hospitality industry took big hits. Business travel went down, hotels took hits, restaurants took hits, all of that. Airline travel, train travel. So, outside influences often affect the economy, but they can also not be controlled by the corporations. So they act like pseudo-governments. They push for policy, subsidies, tax breaks. They do generate an enormous amount of economic activity. I'm not anti-corporation or 100% pro-corporation. People try to draw you into these. You have to choose a side. It's a lot more complex than that. And we're a part of that picture. Every single one of us is a part of that picture. Just look around you. Where you work, where you live, what's in front of you, what you have, even from the house, from the foundation, the apartment, the condo, or the trailer park. Doesn't matter. 866-95-PATRIOT, 957-2874. Speaking of Major League Baseball, I'm watching that one play out, and the hypocrisy is not lost The politicians got involved from the president on down. He got 4 Pinocchios for his lies about the Georgia legislation, calling it Jim Crow in the 21st century. And he got 4 Pinocchios. That's not you misspoke. That's you lied. Well, one of two things is wrong. Either Biden's incompetent and he didn't know how to read the law, because any one of us can do that, or somebody handed him the paper and said, stick with this narrative, which, okay, he lied. So they move MLB to a state which has voter ID laws. So Georgia had it. They expanded it. Colorado already had it. See what I mean? 866-95-PATRIOT, 957-2874. I'll be right back.
This is the David Webb Show. David Webb.
I know a lot of you need a break, and when you take a break, you might want to have a good cigar. You ever ask yourself the question, what's the difference between a good cigar and the best cigar? I've got someone to help you with that answer. American-owned, in business for over 80 years, Famous Smoke Shop. They have the cigars you love, Padron, Fuente, Patel, many, many more. They deliver them right to your doorstep, and they do so at America's lowest prices. Here's an exclusive Famous Smoke offer just for you. You take $20 off your purchase of $99 or more when you use my promo code DAVID20. That's David20. Go to famous-smoke.com/web with 2 B's. Click the activate button, apply the promo code, and then pick from more than 1,000 cigar brands. They're fresh. They're ready to ship to you. That's promo code DAVID20, David20, and get $20 off your order. Every purchase you make, backed by the Famous Freshness Guarantee. You get real cigars from a real cigar shop, and they're shipped direct to you from famous-smoke.com/web with 2 B's.
Speak your mind. Speak your mind. The David Webb Show, 866-957-2874.
So I got to tell you, I love talking about the things that actually matter that we sometimes don't consider, like the economy and all this stuff. And this baseball controversy is an economic story. Woke Coke and Woke MLB have managed to somehow, not too hard to figure out how, damage the very agenda they claim they have when it comes to the, quote, minority community in America. $100 million impact that would have come from the All-Star game in Georgia. But, hey, woke MLB, corporations, owners, Commissioner Manfred, have decided to take the game, the All-Star game, out of Atlanta, which is 40.9% white and 51% black. Now, think what $100 million does in overall economic activity in that area. Even if only, say, 50 million remains in the area. What about those poor black people? That's what they tell us, right? You're black, you're poor black people. We got your back. Except when it doesn't fit their agenda, but the hypocrites then turn around and they go to Colorado, which has voter ID laws, just like they did in Georgia, is somewhat of a less diverse state. Denver, for contrast, is 76.1% white and 9.2% black. Colorado overall, 86.9% white and 4.6% black. So I guess all you guilty white privileged people and liberals in Colorado should self-identify as black for the purposes of keeping the social and racial justice of the MLB right where it needs to be. Yep. Corporate America moving an event from a 60% white state to an 80% white state for racial justice. Somebody work with that one. They affect your lives in so many ways. I wonder if they will, though, because so many people are tuning out. Can't we just have sports? Can't we just, play ball? 866-95-PATRIOT, 957-2874. Carol, Pennsylvania. Go ahead, Carol.
Hi, David. Long time no talk.
Well, good to have you back. Well, I took off, so that's fair.
Yes.
All right.
That's right. That's right. I'm just calling on the disintegration of the liberty in this country and what I feel is a complete agenda in full throttle right now to socialize as much as possible, but also to destroy the economy. It's kind of like beating us down to a pulp, and then they're going to force us to start from scratch. The small businesses in Pennsylvania, we've been locked down for a long time. With the tax increases, it's just going to put so much more burden on the small businesses and independent contractors. Then you have just the continuous lockdowns and keeping everybody in fear. And you have the border crisis, quote unquote, where we're basically being invaded from within. Let's destroy more economy. And then we have the voting in Georgia. And yes, the financial impact is huge, but I think their whole thing about defeating voter rights or voter integrity and keep it the way it is imperative for them to get the votes. If we don't manage to squelch that by 222, I'm very fearful for this country. I don't know if we can take a Biden administration and a Democratic Congress for 4 years with the rate they're going. I mean, we're only 3 months in, and the amount of damage that they're inflicting on this country is just insane.
Well,
so I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful.
Well, I go beyond hopeful. I mean, I'm not saying you use it as a strategy, but I think they're overselling themselves in so many ways. Now, I don't know how that plays out. But I'll tell you, the way they're going, and like you said, in just a couple of months, just a few months for that matter, can't believe it's April already. I'm living in a perpetual April Fool's Day with this administration. But with all the things they're doing in the political realm, with all the things they're doing in the corporate realm, whether it's tax policy, global tax policy, suppression on the economy, overspending, MLB decisions, woke Coke, whatever it is, there's an overplay here. They're overplaying their hand. I can't give you a definitive outcome.
Freedom of speech.
Yeah, freedom. I wonder about that.
Freedom of religion. Freedom of religion.
That will get
too.
interesting when COVID ends. That will get interesting when COVID ends. And by the way, and I won't say take this bet to the bank, but I bet in 2 months things will change significantly. I wonder how they're going to deal with that. When I was in Pennsylvania this past weekend, went into the bar on Saturday night, and you couldn't have a stool at the bar. Now you can. Suddenly, even Tom Wolfe and others may realize that you can't keep the pandemic alive forever. Carol, thanks for the call. 866-95-PATRIOT. Let's see here. Lance in Maryland. Go ahead, Lance.
Hey, David. It's nice to speak with you. I listen to you in the morning while I'm working from home. But my thought was, the Republicans should be able to counter some of these Democratic proposals, like the COVID-19 bill, where less than 10% actually goes towards COVID. They should just write up a mirrored bill, call it, the Environmental Protection Bill, put, 10% of the effort into green energy, and then put other things like where you approve the pipeline and you approve, drilling, and you approve some of these other things that actually keep us energy independent. And, if someone in the media points out, well, wait a minute, why is this only 9 or 10% towards green, and it's also towards drilling oil? then they could say, well, you didn't criticize it when the COVID bill was less than 10%.
Yeah, the left won't care about that. I hear what you're saying. Now let's take that to a strategy. By the way, the Republicans already have an argument on green energy, and they have Texas as an example, or alternative energy. I'm going to use alternative because it's various forms. Texas is already the largest generator of alternative energy methods. Now, we can get into viability in other time, Lance. But the oil-rich state, which produces the fossil fuels that we need, refines it that we need in this country, along with other states, but the largest producer, is also the largest alternative energy state. So Republicans have a message in point. We're investing, and when it's viable, we'll bring it to market. I mean, it's that simple. I don't know why they don't get it.
Right, but I don't understand, like, part of the battle is winning the public opinion, and of course everyone who's for energy and independence already thinks a certain way. It's the country, right, that we're kind of losing the balance because we're slightly less than the majority, and to try to turn that percentage to above 50%, you got to be able to point out some of the hypocrisy behind some of these bills that are being passed, where very, very little actually goes towards the effort it's defined to go towards. And, to win that percentage could turn the tide, right? So the strategy is we're always on the defensive, like trying to defend logic and truth. We're not winning that part of the argument. The people.
I'm with you on that. And what we need is an on steroids public campaign. There's two sides to this. When your opponent or your enemy is bent on destroying themselves, let them. Okay, that's part one. Part two, what you're saying, I think the messaging is where we're lacking. To go out there and point this out, and that needs to be an aggressive campaign, not just a social media campaign, aggressive in every form, including ad buys to continue to point this out. And there's a spend I think the party infrastructure needs to focus on. Lance, thanks for the call. Dustin, Florida, go ahead.
Hey, Mr. Webb, I don't claim to be as smart as all these other callers are, but I do want to bring up something that just doesn't make sense to me, and that is if voting ID is so racist, then why is it so not racist to have an ID to get a vaccine? Because they say it is.
That's it. That's all there is to it. Dustin, I mean, it's only racist when they say it is, and it's only not racist when whoever they are on the left, say it is. And it kind of goes with what I was saying to Lance. When they're hell-bent on destroying themselves, as in the front of the American people, reasonable people like you, like me, let them. At the same time, we do need to, hit them back every which way, like this MLB issue. People can argue about it all they want, but it is the perfect example of stupid leftist logic hurting the very people they claim they care about the most, black people. Well, I guess now it's broader, black and brown people, whatever.
Yeah, and I love people of all races myself. I just don't understand how you can say that having to have ID to vote is racist, but you got to prove who you are and how old you are to get a vaccine, and how all of a sudden that's just not racist. And I hope that there's some people with that mindset. They go out there, and I hope that they hear that and they think, man, that makes a whole lot of sense. Why would we have to have ID to get a vaccine and not to vote? So,
yeah, why do you need ID to pick up your tickets? Yeah, well, why do you need ID to pick up your tickets if you want to go to the All-Star game? If they're a will call, why do you need ID to get on a plane? Now you've got, Delta Airlines, American Airlines, and United Airlines all woke signal in a way about, getting on. Well, I got on an airplane last week. Matter of fact, I've been on, 3 flights? Maybe 4 flights in the last couple of weeks? Yeah, something like that. And every time I got on the plane, I had to prove who I was. I had to show them my ID, then pull down my mask so they could see my face. Oh, that's really you. Okay, you go ahead. But that wasn't racist. I'm a black man. Isn't it racist to ask a black man for his ID to get on an airplane? I don't know, Dustin. I just don't No. 866-95-PATRIOT, 957-2874. Michigan, Henry. What's going on, Henry?
Hello.
Hello, Henry. It's all you, man.
Hi.
Let's have it.
You, David?
Yeah.
Oh, Semper Fi, brother. I got a question for you, and that is, I've been watching this Ron DeSantis debacle, and I'm looking to see, I think, do you think that he is the man of the future for both parties? A person who can actually unite the Democrats, the Republicans, to work together and make this country better?
You know, look, DeSantis has a lot of potential. Here's what I believe. I had this conversation probably within the last week or two with someone, that rather than look to the future, look to being both effective and successful in the present, because that's what builds your future. He's making a lot of the right decisions as a governor. He has good advisors, a good team. Work with that. Build that foundation, because you're going to be attacked. You're going to be lied about. And if that develops, that foundation develops, then I'll say the future. I'm not a fan of picking the future, not because I can't pay attention and say, look, that has a lot of potential. But I think he just needs to focus on keeping Florida strong where it is, hitting back when he's lied about and attacked. He has to do that. You have to defend yourself. But do it all with getting the right things done. Then ask for people's support.
I guess the reason I think this is because the Democrats got behind him on these lies.
Yeah, but there's enough of them there that are going after him. You know, as a Florida resident, I look at this and you'll see that, what's her name, the lady, there's always all kinds of Democrats coming at him from the side. Look, if Democrats are in your corner for the moment, don't get too comfortable. Keep your eyes on the prize and keep your eyes on them. Keep your head on a swivel, because at some point they're going to pull out the political knife and stick it in your back. Just how it works. That's just, politics. Democrats are just better at it. Smile, shake your hand, tell you you're doing a good job, and wait for the moment to put it in and twist it. Ron DeSantis needs to just build a solid base of success in Florida. The future will, in many ways, determine itself. The border's next. Biden's border crisis continues, and we'll talk with Ted Harvey about his latest article in Town Hall.
Truth is the authority.
All right, first thing, bring your A game, because I'll take nothing less.
I mean, we don't need more regulations. We need far less of them.
We're going to have an open and honest discussion, but the numbers are what matter. The facts matter. Forget about the Republicans and the Democrats for a minute. Let's talk about the people.
I've lived the American dream, and I want so many more people to be able to live the American dream.
My show is what it says. It's common sense.
We've jettisoned political correctness.
It's principles and policies that work for everybody. I just want to talk about how to fix this country.
The David Webb Show.
By now, you've probably seen the images. You've seen the various pictures, videos, the reporting of what's going on the southern border. Biden's border crisis is actually a national crisis. It's not just limited to the border, as illegal immigration is also not limited to the border. Fact is, this is spread already significantly in California to military bases being used as additional facilities. The fact that they are testing, for example, illegal aliens who leave the facility only if they go to another facility. If they're released, take a Greyhound bus or public transit, they're not necessarily tested. So we have a border crisis, a security crisis, a human trafficking crisis, a drug transit crisis. The FBI has arrested 4 persons of interest from special interest countries since January that we know of. And the system at the same time is being shut down by these orders given from the top on how to process and deal with, to interdict and deal with illegal aliens. In the courts, the immigration courts, they're not even being given notices to appear. This problem is a deliberate attempt to balkanize this country even more, and in my humble opinion, make the problem too big to fix. StopJoe.com is the website, the committee to defeat the president, not defend him, but to defeat him. And Ted Harvey joins me now. Ted, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Let's dive right in. There's so much to this, Ted, and in my years of watching this since the mid to late 90s, for lack of a better way of putting it, never seen such a successful, coordinated effort between an administration, individual groups, NGOs, illegal alien, pro-illegal alien groups, and even in the way they weaponize the bureaucracies, or maybe defang the bureaucracy and the agencies that's supposed to deal with this influx. Am I off here? Am I wrong? But this seems top down an effective strategy on their part.
Without a doubt. And it was perfected during the Obama administration. And you saw the same massive numbers of people coming north from South America in caravans during the Obama administration. And the Obama administration set it all up. And Joe Biden had a front row seat to watching what would happen. And in 2016, Trump won on this issue because the American people were sick of what was going on. And Trump did everything he could to solve the problem, despite the Democrats' efforts at every turn to stop the Trump administration from dealing with this issue. And it forced Trump to put tariffs on the Mexican government, and Trump went forward with his own executive order to say that we're not going to allow people to come here and seek asylum unless they seek asylum south of the border. And that brought illegal immigration to a trickle, in the Mexican government working with the United States to stop it. The Joe Biden administration literally turned all of those successful policies around and went back to the open border policies of Obama, and the results are, pretty predictable. And they know exactly what they're doing and why they're doing it.
Who else is part of this? For example, I'll look at Endeavor. This is a nonprofit out of Austin, Texas. They received an $86.9 million contract to help house illegal aliens. That's one example. You've got groups out there, NGOs, church groups, various activist groups working with the Biden administration, and in some states with state governors or other elements within the state. This goes beyond. This goes beyond a problem that they may have a different view of.
Much different view on it. I believe the Democrat Party has been taken over by the open border folks from the left, and they don't believe they believe in a world without borders, that people should just be able to travel wherever they want, and that countries don't have sovereignty. And they are moving in that direction, and it is a very well orchestrated, concerted effort to destabilize the United States and open up our borders to anybody that wants to come here. And it's not only dangerous for the border states, where in Arizona they have a national emergency in some of those, not a national emergency, but declared a state of emergency in some of those border towns. Like you said earlier, they're moving those people in, spending over $300 million to put people in hotels all across the country. They're putting them in arenas in San Diego and in Dallas, and then putting them in bases across the country. That's going to have a huge impact on the population across our entire country. But the Democrats, it's a coordinated effort, and that's their agenda.
Well, where does it go? And, some of the things are really obvious, but where does this go? Ideology is part of this. By the way, I get the polling on this. If you poll Republicans, if you poll centrists, if you poll Democrats, you get different polling. Polling shouldn't drive policy. It might reflect parts of it or reaction to it. But, where does this go next? Because, I call it too big to fix, which is really what they're aiming for here. Do you agree, disagree?
I believe they are trying to fundamentally change America, as Obama said. That is their goal. And if they can bring in enough people into Texas and into Arizona, they are going to turn those states the way they did California. And their goal is to make Texas and Arizona as blue as can be. And if that happens, then the Democrats will be in control of this country forever. And if that requires destabilizing our entire country to allow them to have power, I believe that's their goal. And the consequences to that are too huge to even enumerate. I think that the Democrats are completely driven by power, and they don't care about what's going to happen to the citizens of America.
Who else is helping them, Ted? I mean, look, in the Trump years, it was kids in cages, right? And now it's, illegal aliens in the dirt under highway overpasses. There's still kids in cages, as they put it. These detention centers are overfull. They're actually violating law by keeping kids in cages longer than the 72 hours that they're supposed to be there. That's proven. But yet the media seems willfully ignorant and unwilling to cover this.
Oh, not willfully ignorant. They completely understand what's going on, and they proved themselves during the Trump administration to be nothing more than propaganda tools of the left in this country. And the fact that they have been covering up not just this issue, but multiple issues with regards to Joe Biden and the administration continues that narrative that they're just propagandists for the Democrat Party. But in this situation, they are complicit, in my opinion, to policies that are bordering on treason. If the administration is doing everything they can to destabilize this country and put American citizens at risk and put American towns and states at risk, then that's bordering on treason. And the media is willfully helping them out and doing everything they can to cover it up, where during the Trump administration, they were running story after story after story to try to destroy the administration. In this case, they're trying to protect it. And you see what's happening. I mean, it is a humanitarian crisis on the border where they have, 10 times the amount of people that they're supposed to have in these holding facilities. You saw the videos last week of a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old girl being dropped from a 14-foot wall. The administration is encouraging all of this, yet they are doing nothing to stop it. And their press secretary is paying lip service to the crisis that's going on the border. And Kamala Harris, who is supposed to be in charge of it, won't even go down there to see what's going on.
Yeah, 13 days since she's been named the sheriff. But, that sounds eerily familiar. During the Obama years, Biden was the sheriff of the bailouts. I think that was it. He was going to check the money, make sure it's all there. Kamala Harris hasn't shown up. But that's just distraction for them because, if to go to your earlier points, this is their plan. And now the question is, whether it's through StopJoe.com, the American people, or the possibility of a greater tragedy in these populations being allowed in the country, where do you think this reaches a tipping point, and what does that look like potentially?
Well, I think for the American people, like I said, the reason why Trump won in 2016 was this issue and this issue alone. And I believe that that is going to be the case in the 2022 elections. I think the American people are going to rise up and throw Nancy Pelosi out of office, at the Speaker's office, that is. We only need to pick up 6 seats in the U.S. House. We obviously only need to pick up 1 seat in the Senate. I think we'll do that. That's what my PAC is wholly focused on in the 2022 elections, is to take back Congress. And then, we're going to have to do everything we can to put pressure on the administration. The Biden is there for another 3.5 years. And unfortunately, when it comes to foreign policy, and this is a foreign policy issue, the administration has a lot of power to deal with it, and Congress doesn't have a lot of power. And we're going to have to continue to put as much pressure on the media and as much pressure on the administration as we can. And that's why my PAC is the Committee to Defeat the President at StopJoe.com, because we have to do everything we can to stop him.
You say, and by the way, I'm in agreement, this borders on treasonous activity, treason, period. When you look at the deliberate subversion, the deliberate duplicity, if you apply all the synonyms of what treason represents, and that's been carried out from the president's office, from the Oval Office, down through government agencies and bureaucracies. Do you have any faith that if the Republicans were to take the House, send Pelosi back in 2022, that they would have what it takes to impeach Joe Biden on the basis of what he has done on this issue alone?
No, that's a good question. I would argue no. Unfortunately, we have far too many Republicans that are complicit in this as well over the last 20 years, that have been working hand in hand with the Democrats and the U.S. Chamber of Compromise, that have done everything they can to subvert any effort to strengthen our immigration laws and to build the wall on the southern border. I don't think we're going to be getting rid of enough of those in the Republican Party that will stand up and try to strengthen the border. So to get enough people, 2/3 of the United States Senate, to impeach the president, no, I don't think that would happen.
That does not bode well for us.
But it is the case, I believe. You say it goes all the way up to the Oval Office. It certainly goes up to the Oval Office. The Biden administration on day one overturned the Trump policies on the asylum rules, to say that you had to seek asylum south of the border before you came here. They're the ones that directed ICE and the Border Patrol not to stop people as they were coming in, and to allow them to come in and then do catch and release, which is a policy the Trump administration overturned. Thankfully, the Texas governor and the Texas AG sued the administration to put a stop to those policies, but the administration is moving forward full force to say our borders are open and anybody who wants to come here can, and that's why we have the caravans coming from those 2 girls that were thrown over the wall last week. They came from South America. So imagine the trip that they had to make, a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, to come from South America all the way to our southern border, and then to be thrown over the wall. I mean, that is what Joe Biden is encouraging, and the fact that the American people are not rising up and the media is not rising up speaks volumes of where we are as a country.
Yeah, look, 3 weeks ago, just 3 weeks ago, 2 SUVs loaded with people, I think 28 in one, went through an open area in the fence into California, and how many died? 14, I believe, died when one of the SUVs was struck by a truck. So they're actual dead bodies as a result of these policy decisions. Ted, keep up the good work. StopJoe.com. A lot of good information there for everyone, but we need to find a way to do this. And I got to tell you, I'm skeptical on what the Republicans, if they were to take the House, would actually be capable of doing. We'll see.
Me too. But we've got to start there. If we don't start a revolution at the voting box in November of 2022, we won't be able to save the country at all. So that's what our focus is going to be on for the next 2 to 4 years.
All right, we'll see. We'll work together on this. StopJoe.com, Ted Harvey. Thanks, Ted.
Thank you, buddy. God bless. Have a great weekend.
All right, quick break. I'll be right back.
This is the David Webb Show. David Webb.
Well, we all wake up every day, right? At least that's the plan I have. And then some of us wake up and run a business. You've got to get a lot of things right when you run a business every day. You can't lax. HR issues can kill your business if you get them wrong. And you think about wrongful termination suits, right? Minimum wage requirements, labor regulations. If you want an HR manager to hire one, the national average $70,000 a year. That's a big pull. Bambee, Bambee, was created specifically for your small business. You get a dedicated HR manager to craft policy, maintain your compliance, do it all for just $99 a month. With Bambee, you change HR from liability to strength. Your dedicated manager is available by phone, email, or real-time chat. They'll handle everything, onboarding and terminations, customize policies to fit your business, and help you manage your employees day to day. Again, that's for $99 a month. It's month to month. By the way, no hidden fees, and you can cancel anytime. Let Bambee help your business. Schedule your free HR audit today at Bambee.com/web. Again, that's BAMBEE.com/web. Bambee.com/web with 2 B's.
David Webb. Truth is the authority. This is Sirius XM Patriot.
By the way, next hour, Dan Rodemer, congressional candidate in a special election for Texas' 6th Congressional District, will join me. And there's another district affected by, as the entire state is, by this illegal alien crisis. 866-95-PATRIOT, 957-2874. Gary, Virginia. What's up, Gary?
Hey, David. Good talking again, buddy. Hey, look, you were talking earlier about the Major League Baseball and all this stuff in Georgia and everything, and I knew it was going to be a hot topic Saturday morning. I like to listen to this one sports talk show on the 4-letter network, and I said I knew it was going to come up, and they brought it up, and I said I had to call down and say, guys, I love your show. And they, I got into the show and I said, look, guys, have you read the bill? And, I'll stammer and stutter and everything to do. Don't get into this road until you know the facts. And evidently they took my advice and they shut up about it. This is, we're not going to take any more calls about this because we haven't read the bill. And I said, well, let me give you a little advice. Rand Paul said it best. He says it makes it easier for people to vote and less likely for cheating. And I'll help you out there. That way you can get through the rest of your show and have a great day. And then I got a bone to pick with you.
Yeah.
You were in my backyard in Virginia.
I was hiding out. I was under strict orders.
You must have passed right past my city. Did you come over the Blue Ridge Mountains?
No, we didn't go out west. I'm working on something out there, but I was under strict orders. It wouldn't have mattered if I was in pick any state. I was under strict orders to break. You don't mess with the.
Oh, okay, all right, man. I was going to take you to a distillery. So there you go.
No, we'll still get around to that. We'll get to the Blue Ridge eventually.
Well, okay, buddy, but I had to get that out. But this thing with Major League Baseball's got to stop, man. I'll tell you what, they are really going to lose their market share of sports, and it's a shame. It's a real shame. So,
yeah,
you have a great day, Dave.
This was a self-inflicted wound. This one you swung at a wild pitch, and I like the way you took it to them. Make sure you read the bill, because suddenly they were put on the spot, Gary. Good way to do it, man.
Yeah, man. Later on.
All right, take it easy. Yeah, no, I was strict orders. I was to go on vacation. She had a plan. I was not messing with the plan. All you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. Chris in Cincinnati, voter ID. Chris, what's on your mind?
Well, hey, David, I think, it seems so obvious that I think Joy Pullman nailed it on the Federalist, her article there, that it's so obvious they don't want voter ID. They don't want the signature verification because they just want a way to steal elections, and they're doing the same thing on the border. They're trying to import voters, and it's all part of the same plan. It looks like extend the COVID restrictions as much as possible to keep us distracted and to prevent us from really coming together and understanding what they're up to. But it just seems like their whole plan is about winning elections any way they can figure out how to do it. It just seems like we should be arguing that point and not taking the bait on the stuff about racism or we need open borders so we can protect economic refugees. I mean, it's all nonsense. They just want to win elections and import voters and not have to worry about it so that they can dominate, the political landscape forever. They've been trying to do the
and
same
just
thing
like
for 20
I
years.
tell black people, talk to white people, this whole white privilege crap that's running around, that really, blacks in this country need to talk to, when I say, quote, whites, anyone they call it non-black, and say white privilege is garbage. Engage with people, regardless of color, but especially to turn that dynamic. This whole thing about the illegal aliens, who else we need to talk to? Illegal aliens. Look, they're here. So let's reach out to them and say, here's what your worth really is. They may never, I don't think they'll ever give them the amnesty they want, because that ends the conversation for a while if you do that. But they will not only never get amnesty, but they're being used to increase congressional representation, which is why they went against the citizenship question on the census, right? Your representation should be based on citizens.
Right.
And that was the approach there rather than on total persons. They want more and more people to change the representation more often in predominantly Democrat districts, which goes to where? What you and I are talking about. Power in the end and control. So to illegal aliens, you're getting nothing. You're not going to get a single thing. You're going to be used and discarded, plain and simple. Mike, South Carolina, 866-95-PATRIOT. Go ahead, Mike.
Hey, Andrew, how are you? David, how are you today?
Doing all right, Mike. What do you got?
Good. You ever watch Benny on the Block? Anyway, I watched it yesterday. It's a young guy who goes around interviewing people. So he goes to Atlanta yesterday. Is interviewing voters in Atlanta. And he's checking to see if they have IDs. And one lady he goes, yes. She goes, I have an ID. She goes, and I live under that bridge right there. And then another guy comes in, homeless. He goes, they call me Mr. Hustle. So he's got that written on his ID card, but he's got an ID card. So everybody has to have an ID card in order to get their food stamps and their whatever. And they're just blowing it all the way out of proportion.
It's all about getting to the end, power. Doesn't matter what it is. By the way, think about this. What they're saying to I don't know. Is there a politically correct term? Not that I really care anymore, but to some minority group or special interest group or self-identified pronoun or turnip, what are they saying? You're not capable. Like black people, you just can't get an ID. You're too stupid to get an ID. You function in society as a victim, and you're unable to do this. Talk about insulting.
I agree, man. It's just, and unfortunately, they're getting away with it, and people are they're biting it. They're buying it.
It's just so frustrating. That's all. When I watched that, I just went, a lady lives under the bridge, and she has ID. Unbelievable. And thank you for everything. I love your show, and thank you for everything.
All right, Mike. Thanks for the call. Let's go to Mark in North Carolina. Go ahead, Mark.
Hey, David. Thanks for taking my call. Hey, I was wondering, everybody's talking about 22 and 24, the election. If the integrity of this election was stolen from us, and everybody, and I know I get labeled being a conspiracy theorist for saying it was stolen, but it's obvious. Even Mike Lindell came out with a new video with a scientist proving the algorithm that they used and how they stole, how they flipped votes. I'm in North Carolina. There is no way possible Roy Cooper should be our governor now, because Mark Robertson, who became our lieutenant governor, he got more votes than anyone ever has for that spot. And we went almost straight Republican everywhere except our governor. How does that happen? If we don't deal with this, how do we deal with this in a peaceful way? I'm not talking about overthrowing our government like they're doing. I'm talking about how do we organize, get together, let our voices be heard, and say, hey, this is not right. We know it's not right. They're saying
I'll start with something we've already begun to focus on, even more so on this show, and what we're seeing in Georgia as an example. And we need to see this in Pennsylvania. I think something will eventually come in Pennsylvania that's similar. We're pushing the local people, the legislators, right? Your mayors, those state legislators, House or Senate, can go in and pass laws. What they just did in Georgia. And I still have a lot of criticism for Brian Kemp and what's his name, Brad Raffensperger, Secretary of State,
right?
Because their failures in Texas, and when you're the boss, you get assigned the responsibility of the success and the failure. Their failures in Texas, along with some members of the Georgia GOP, is what gave Stacey Abrams and the left that much leverage, that much ability to change the system. What Georgia just did was, there's no other way to put it, but smart and necessary combined. They actually passed reasonable reforms, which did what I believe, which is expand your ability to vote while at the same time securing the methods by which you vote. More legislators do that. Pennsylvania needs to do it. There are efforts underway in Arizona, in Michigan. They need an increased effort. We need those key states. We need to keep doing that because look, and it's no disrespect meant to Mike, but videos are important to inform people, but they're not going to do the job without legislative action. Legislators in the states have to take back the manner of elections as the Constitution prescribes. And if they do that, information plus action is how we win. Third part of that, I don't care. Look, it's not that I don't care. I love the primary system. Even when I look at it and I go, how in the hell did that work out that way? But once the primary's over, or sometimes even before the primary's over and the fight's underway, Republicans need to get in the room, get their act together, filter out the people that are not going to win. Okay, look, if you look at somebody and go, you have no chance of winning this primary. But if you bleed off votes, the Democrat wins. Make adult decisions. I respect the right to run your race, and you have a right to keep going even after I tell you you have no chance of winning, if that's the reality. But then get it together so that you don't bruise yourself and damage yourself in the primaries, and then come out of that primary and line up behind that Republican, and look, go run against him or her next time. Go ahead, run your race next time against that Republican, because you believe you should, and you have every right to do that. But if you don't win, you don't make policy. 866-95-PATRIOT. Quick break.
This is the David Webb Show. David Webb.
Hey, good news for you. Optimism for entrepreneurs has increased. In fact, A recent survey shows the highest ever intent for people to start their own businesses right now in the spring of 2021. Have you ever wanted to start a business or maybe a little side gig? You got to get your side company going. And it's tough. And if you're growing, well, that's great, but it means hiring. And for that, I'd turn to ZipRecruiter. They make hiring fast and easy. Right now, my listeners, all of you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/web. When you post your job on ZipRecruiter, it gets sent out to over 100 top job sites with just one click. Then their matching technology scans thousands of resumes and profiles to send you the most qualified people for your job. And if you're really interested in a candidate, you can invite them right there to apply for your job. One click does it all. ZipRecruiter sends them an email. You stand out from the competition. No wonder 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Right now, try ZipRecruiter for free. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/WEBB. That's ZipRecruiter.com/web. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
The David Webb Show, a gathering place for patriots. 866-957-2874.
Next hour, we'll have Dan Rodemer. He's running for Texas 6. That's another special election. It seems like the House is never settled. There's always something going on. News breaking a little while ago, Alcee Hastings, the once impeached federal judge who then went into Congress, was elected and reelected, died at age 84. He suffered from pancreatic cancer, so we can disagree in a lot of things. I certainly was no fan of the man, but to his family, my condolences on that. I'm not heartless. I can disagree with you I can disagree and not be heartless. Mike in Indiana, 866-95-PATRIOT. Go ahead.
Morning, Dave. A couple of points I wanted to make in regard to the previous conversation with you. I don't care how tight voter ID laws and registration and so forth takes place, unless we get rid of this Dominion software, computers going to be programmed to do whatever result they want, especially being able to access the internet. I'm an engineer. I understand computer systems. It's a hopeless cause. Second thing is, in regard to primaries, you look back at Trump in his primary. They were initially concerned that he was going to be a sore loser, and if he lost, he's going to run as an independent. So they all signed affidavits that whoever won the primary, they were going to support. How far did that go? I think Huckabee and maybe one or two other guys, Ben Carson, agreed to their signed affidavits. So
that doesn't
the Republicans have learned to play ball.
Because politicians play for their own outcome. So, and I'm not a fan of these letters and, we all signed an agreement. We all signed a pledge. We'll just do the damn job the right way, the way the Constitution lays it out, the way the laws exist. Do your job to change the laws if the laws are lousy. I get that. Politicians do this to advance their next step. They hate each other in the primary. They go after each other. They play hardball. That's the world. And then they come out and, he won. So, you know what? Let me get cozy because I need him if I want to win somewhere else. Yeah, call me a
One
cynic.
other quick question regarding constitutionality. Why can't, say, a congressman, a questionable piece of legislation like this H.R. 1, just take it to the Supreme Court and say, please vet this for us. We think there's unconstitutional things all over the place. At least give us a preliminary assessment of this legislation.
Well, one, they don't need to. Easier to vet it versus the Constitution. Two, I wouldn't want that role for the Supreme Court. That's too close to or actually it's exactly in some ways, what the state Supreme Courts often do. They're very heavily politicized. I talked with Chris Dush, state senator in Pennsylvania this weekend, and he was the one who filed impeachment papers against the Pennsylvania Supreme Court when they made these unconstitutional changes to their election laws. I don't want Supreme Courts to become political fetters. It's just not a good thing for our system overall.
Well, we can't just have legislation passed willy-nilly and they say nothing about it. That's how we got
but we have
1,600 federal agencies that are unconstitutional.
Right, but we have a legal pathway, which, and I've asked congressmen and various officials on this show why they're not filing the lawsuits, because you can challenge the administration. You don't need to go to the Supreme Court. You can file the lawsuit. The leadership of the Republican Party needs to answer this question. The Texas AG, Mark Brnovich in Arizona, other AGs, whether they've been on or off the show, are doing the right thing in filing these multi-state lawsuits. And congressional representatives, especially the leadership, can do the same, if nothing else, to challenge them on it and force at least a public view of it. And if you get into court, a decision.
Okay. I was on the assumption they had no recourse at all.
No, they do. They do. They can look. The Democrats do it all the time. How many times do you see lawsuits filed against a Republican for something? Out of Congress, for that matter. It does happen. It does exist.
Okay. Well, thanks for your time, Dave. Enjoy the show.
All right, Mike. Thanks for the call. No, look, the Republicans need to play lawfare. The Democrats use it effectively against them. And if there's a case, let's just deal in raw politics here, raw Machiavellian politics. If you can't do it in Congress because you don't think you can reach standing because it's a political objection, and it's tricky. It's got some gray areas. I'm not saying it's perfect. Not like you file the lawsuit and you're automatically in court in front of a judge. We know that doesn't happen. Just look at the election lawsuits, many of which were never heard, most of which were never heard. And that's a whole other topic. But the Democrats go to work with the outside organizations that judge shop, they district shop, they get it into court, they get a judge that is favorable to their view. The judge then issues a decision based on that, and you're in a fight. And even if they lose the fight, the fact that they're fighting energizes their base and their believers, and they move forward. They don't always need to win the fight. They'd like to win the fight. And I'm not saying, and by the way, as much as that is the real world example, it is also a form of judicial activism, which I don't like. But there's a distinction between judicial activism of just judge shopping for a left-wing judge who's going to agree that monkeys fall out of the sky or something ridiculous because a Democrat brought it against a Republican, and a constitutional approach which takes it to the court, work with an outside organization, get it into court. They took the bakers, right? They took all the bakers to court for a cake. Or not baking a cake, or a cookie, or a crumb, or a cracker, or a muffin, or whatever the hell it was. Or a flower arrangement. Get it in front of a judge or a court that is more friendly to the Constitution. That's the distinction between activism and a decision based on existing law. All right, let's see here. We'll go by time. Bill, no, let's go to Dave in Florida. Dave, Florida. Bill, hang on. I'll get to you next. Go ahead, Dave.
Hey, David, on the subject of the Democrats being willing to take money from literally anybody to support their causes, there's a story that's not being told in the media that I think is there, either on our side or the other side of the media. The cartel, Sinaloa, the other two cartels control 5/8 of the governments in Mexico. The cities, the states in Mexico, they control them. We had Guzman acknowledge he paid the last president $50 million in a bribe. Now we have a public transaction going on where the cartels enjoy $1,000 to $1,200 per child to bring them into this country, and the other side of the transaction being closed and sealed by this government, who are Democrats. Wouldn't it be logical that through black PACs they have heavily donated for the privilege of doing this? Wouldn't one think that? I mean, most logical people would think
it's
that.
very possible. There have been some stories that have been sourced. Some have been, I don't know, debunked, for lack of a better term, a mixture of everything. And it's, I guess I would say, logical that they would apply their power and influence in certain areas and fund the things that keep their business going. It's a difficult one to sort out, because if you're running a cartel, you're not stupid. Okay, I'm not saying it's right and it's wrong, but you're not stupid. So you can funnel your money to interest just like another interest group does, so that you have that separation from, your money into the political system. In Mexico, it's more open. It's just direct bribery in many cases. But in the United States, they just have to support the things that support their business model.
Well, it appears as though the business model may have generated already about $150 million for them. So donating to that is way in their repertoire of tactics commonly used. Just a pretty obvious one, anyhow.
Yeah, no, look, there's a lot of things when it comes to this issue. Thanks for the call, Dave, that we need to look into. I'm trying to find it as we're talking. This was a few years back. And it was from Catholic.org, Catholic Online, dominantly, obviously, Catholic website. And it was about swaths of lands along the southern border that were, literally rented to the drug cartels. It's kind of interesting to see this. There's so many complexities to this. There are areas on our southern border that literally are cartel-controlled territory on our side of the border. So, what can I say? If it's possible and it's effective, of course they're going to do it. Why wouldn't they? 866-95-PATRIOT. Let's go to Bill in Maryland. All right, Bill, what's up?
Good morning, David. I hope you're feeling better, and hope those back problems, spine problems are alleviated. We missed you, but glad you're back.
Well, thank you. All right, what's up?
I want to talk about this topic of boycott, and really, I think it really comes down to, we can fight back. There's nothing more powerful than the almighty dollar, but I think, as opposed to just a casual conversation about, there has to be some commitment, there has to be some durability to it. Case in point, myself, it's probably been 4 years since I bought a cereal made by General Mills. I haven't walked into a Target store probably in 5 years. Different advertising that I have objection to, I boycott it, and I think Sleep Number bed, hey, it's not an everyday product, but it'll be a long time before I even consider their product. And Domino's Pizza came off with a advertisement I found objectionable. But now with this Coke and Delta Airlines, hey, guess what? There's Pepsi, there's ginger ale, there's a lot of other products out there. Delta Airlines, guess what? There's a lot of other airlines we can use. My point is, we can talk about a boycott, but I'll go back to the durability. If you really object to what they're doing, put the muscle behind it and stop endorsing, stop consuming that product. And sooner or later, if enough people are doing it, not 50, not 100, not 1,000, but a couple 100,000 people stop doing it, it's going to have an impact.
No, look, let's add something to that, because boycotts, for the most part, don't work, but we are seeing a movement in America of people making more choices based on all the stuff going on, right? Like you use the Coca-Cola example. So what did I do? But I'm not a soda drinker. Never have been. I'll have an occasional Dr. Pepper or a ginger ale, and by occasional, it's every few months. Okay, rum and Coke if I'm in Little Havana and I go out, and that's just part of Cuba Libre. That's about as close as I get. But I went and looked at the effects of Coca-Cola. Now, we have a problem in this country, especially in poorer communities with obesity, significant problem with obesity, type 2 diabetes, all the other effects, the organs that are damaged from all of this. And I went to Medical News today, was it yesterday or day before, and read through research on what a can of Coca-Cola does to the body within an hour. Within an hour. These are research done by CDC, WHO, doctors, private organizations. So go to these communities, okay, boycott's one way, education's another. You want to drink a can of Coke and you live in this neighborhood? Let me show you what it does to your body. Have an effort to go out there and tell people what this immense, sugar infusion does to your body and all of the other negative effects. Coca-Cola is not good for you, and neither is obesity. Neither are all the other factors. It's a deadly drink if you consume it at the levels that it affects your health, or potentially deadly. Dan Rodemer, running for Texas 6, next.
The Sean Hannity Show.
WHO has been a mouthpiece for every lie China has told the world the whole time. Now even Democrats are joining Republicans, slamming the report as abusively biased because the Chinese Communist Party-led government's role in the investigation. And all they do at the WHO is now Joe's paying them money again. By the way, while they're doing this, they say, oh, we're going to get tough with the Communist Chinese. No, they're not, because Joe and Hunter are compromised.
Sean Hannity, weekdays starting at 3 p.m. East on Sirius XM Patriot 125. The Mark Levin Show.
And then you have Joe Biden, who takes credit for the vaccines. And now we're on track to have 200 million people vaccinated in his first 100 days. Those vaccines were produced, they were bought for, developed, and produced under the Trump administration. In fact, they had paid for 800 million vaccination shots.
Mark Levin, weekdays starting at 6 p.m. East on Sirius XM Patriot 125. Truth is the authority.
All right, first thing, bring your A game because I'll take nothing less.
I mean, we don't need more regulations. We need far less of them.
We're going to have an open and honest discussion, but the numbers are what matter. The facts matter. Forget about the Republicans and the Democrats for a minute. Let's talk about the people.
I've lived the American dream, and I want so many more people to be able to live the American dream.
My show is what it says. It's common sense.
We've jettisoned political correctness.
It's principles and policies that work for everybody. I just want to talk about how to fix this country.
The David Webb Show.
As I said earlier in the show, the races aren't all settled yet. Earlier, the announcement that Alcee Hastings, long-serving Democrat who was impeached, by the way, as a federal judge for bribery and numerous other charges, served in Congress for decades. He passed away from pancreatic cancer. And that will add another special election to the congressional map, more for Nancy Pelosi to worry about. In Texas, in the 6th district, a district of some 700,000 residents, Dan Rodemer is running for that seat in another special election. These elections are short. They're intense. They, at times, garner immense national attention. So, Dan, welcome to the show, and you're certainly no newcomer to the spotlight in many ways. You've run for office before. You were on the circuit with the WWE, and it looks like you're, to borrow the analogy or continue it, looking to take home the belt. So how's it going in Texas 6?
Hey, David, thank you so much for having me on. What an honor to be on your show, pal. I'm a big fan of yours. This race, it comes down to, too much talk and not enough action. And right now, we got a lot of Sesame Street conservatives running in this race. We need somebody that will stand tall on the issues and have a plan. And in the past week, David, we've done so much. In the past week, we visited the border. We talked to angel moms. we started writing a bill that's on our website, danrodheimer.com. And, also, heck, the fourth thing we did was we're the only candidate that went on CNN and bashed Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, I was surprised they put you on. I don't know if they'll invite you back. And thanks for the correction on the name, Rodheimer. I've got to make sure I get that right because, one, you probably know where to find me, and two, you're a pretty big guy at 6'9". So let's talk about the other issues because you're a policy guy. You and I had a chance to talk in person a couple of weeks ago. And the border and Second Amendment rights go together down on that border. What did you see down there, and what would you do? What would you, if elected, stand there in Congress and say we need to do?
Well, the bill that I started working on, I talked to a number of angel moms, and these are parents, mothers that had their children killed by illegal aliens, and they talked to me and told me all these stories. And David, you know me, brother. I'm a big guy. I'm 6'7", 300 pounds. And I don't cry that often. And sure enough, these parents, had me crying, when they told me these stories. And it motivated me. I said, you know what? We need to fix this. And how do we do that? Well, we need to codify President Trump's Remain in Mexico policy into law. And we got to make sure that, when folks come over here, they go back and they wait, to go through the court system in Mexico, back to in the U.S. when they have their court date. Joe Biden is failing right now. He's absolutely failing. Even the polls this week, the AP polls show that over 50% of Americans disagree with how he's handling the border. I think there was 100,000 illegal aliens that came over in February, and now we have an increase of 178%. I mean, that's scary. It's the biggest surge in 15 years. We need to do something about it. We need to stop it, and we need a big fighter to go up to Congress, to D.C., and fight.
Let's talk economics. And, when you look at, I guess when somebody first sees, they see this big guy, loud, proud as you are, and nothing wrong with that, running for Congress. But let's talk economics that matters to everyone, especially in Texas. The power grid, what happened recently with ERCOT, with the Electronic Reliability, or maybe I guess the Unreliable Council, failures that happened there. Huge economic impact on the state, a state that is an energy state. So from a policy perspective, what are your prescriptions, not only for Texans, but for the country when it comes to energy and economic policy?
Hey, I'm a big oil guy. I believe in oil. I believe in fracking. I believe in natural gas, nuclear. Joe Biden came in and he crushed us. I mean, Texas should be the capital, of the world when it comes to energy. We were net positive in energy prior to Biden coming in. He shut down the Keystone pipeline. We just lost tons and tons of jobs. And then what? Then he decides to increase taxes by 30%. This is just crushing America right now. We need to get, Trump. We need to get folks back to work, and we need, Trump's economic policies back to work. And a lot of Republicans, people don't talk about it. I mean, the fact is, President Trump did such a great job. Highest GDP ever. Lowest unemployment ever. Why are we not going back to that? Why are we not talking more about that? That's what I'm going to do when I go to D.C., Dave. I'm going to fight for the America First agenda. It's kind of like the border right now that he's sailing on. He's putting illegal aliens first in American class.
All right, my impression, and knowing you a little bit, is that you are certainly not going to be silent on a number of issues, nor should you be as a candidate, but you're also getting attacked by the Democrats. And the Democrats have a big investment in Texas. Your district, south of Dallas, down to Waxahachie, other parts of Dallas. I've actually been to Waxahachie a number of times, so don't even get me started on that. And further down is a target because rural counties are next after they get done with South Dallas and Austin and those areas. So what do you say to the Democrats who are making their efforts, or to the voters, rather, that the Democrats are approaching?
It's a major, major issue, David. The fact is, we need to keep Texas red. We got to stop Pelosi, from trying to take over Texas. If Texas goes, America goes. This is the Alamo. This is the last stronghold. We got to fight to keep it. This particular district, and people don't talk about it. All these other, cookie cutter conservatives that are running in this race, they're all the same. They talk about, I'm going to fight for this, and this, but they don't have ideas how to fix it. And they're not talking about the fact that in 2012, Romney won this district by 17. In 16, Trump won it by 12. In 20, Trump only won it by 3. The problem is we need somebody that has a big voice, a big messenger, a big fighter that will expand the party. And that's what I'm going to do when I go there.
Now, the race, obviously, because of a tragedy, Ronald Wright died from complications due to COVID. So you're running to replace him in Texas 6. When you look at the rest of the Republican Party, and look, we have a party that has its own internal conflict underway, and you've just talked about some of the players in this, Romney versus Trump, the Make America Great Again agenda, the America First agenda, not just a slogan, but a set of principles, economic, national security, Second Amendment, right to life, all those issues that matter to the core of the Republican Party. What do you say to the Republicans who are reticent, who say, well, why should I vote for Rodimer? Why should I support him?
David, I am unlike any other candidate in this particular race. I nationalized this race, with our messaging, and that's what it's going to come down to. It's going to come down to a messenger, and the people here in our district. They want somebody that has their morals and their ethics, that will go to Washington, D.C. and have the courage of their conviction and stand tall against the swamp, against the rhinos. And the fact is, at the end of the day, I'm not owned. I'm not owned by anybody. I never will be. This race is going to be one that's going to be determined on the fighter. It's going to be determined. People are not going to vote for somebody just because they're a state legislator here in Texas. They're not going to vote for somebody just because they're the widow of a great congressman. They're not going to vote for somebody just because they're a former WWE pro wrestler. They're going to vote for the person that they know is going to have the biggest voice, go up and fight, and have the biggest message. And that's what we've done. And, the fact that we had, a super viral commercial that 10, 12 million people have viewed, right? What did that do? It put me on CNN. It put me on Fox. It put me on OAN. It put me on, Newsmax. Put me on and put me on your show. One of the most listened to shows in the country. And my campaign has energy. It's energy unlike any other race out there. People are fired up. Our phone is ringing off the hook. People want to come out here and volunteer. They want to get involved. We make politics fun. And the outreach that we have to do is we need Republicans and Democrats and independents, all of them, to come out and vote. That's why we're doing our big WWE-style event on the 17th. We're doing a free wrestling event out here. There's going to be thousands and thousands of people, Republican, Democrat, and independent, and they're going to listen. And that's the first step. If people will listen and communicate, then you can get them to come on board. And that's what we're going to do.
My guest, Dan Rodimer, running for the congressional seat in Texas' 6th Congressional District, just picture south of Dallas and further down the state. The website, by the way, if you want to learn more, danrodimer.com, Rodimer. Look, in your district, it has something which a lot of districts have a problem with, and that is a high graduation rate. The graduation rate for high school is 87.3%. Texas is a big employer state at technical levels, giving people a future. Not everybody's going to college. To those young people, their future matters, and it's been a difficult year last year, as we all know. But Texas is fully reopened. Businesses are starting to churn and hire again. So when you look at the young people in your district, well, no offense to the older folks, but we got to talk about the future of this country and the future of your district and your state of Texas. What do you say to them about why they should support you?
Like I said, I mean, right now we need a candidate that can do outreach to the younger voters. We're not getting that out here. We do not have very exciting candidates that are doing outreach and sending messages so that they want to get on board. We're going to be doing another viral video. And David, I hope I'm invited back on your show in a couple of weeks, because we're going to do an amazing 2A one. That's hopefully they don't take me off every platform, because it's going to be pretty extreme. But in regards to your question, and how do we get folks back to work, the younger group, I am a huge fan of the technical schools. The Democrats hate the technical schools. You go to a technical school for 24 months and you can become an electrician. I think it's 36 months, but it's you go out there, you go to a technical school. These technical schools are held by higher regulations, which is baloney. But you go there, they have to get you a job within 90 days of graduating. Right away, they're out into the workforce. They're making money. I mean, electricians are making a lot of money, David. Plumbers are making a lot of money. College is not for everybody. But heck, my daughter is in nursing school right now in a technical school. And in, I think it's 2.5 years, she becomes an RN. And then she can do another 9 months and go for a nurse practitioner or her master's. It's just a stepping stool. I believe in it. And we need, more skilled labor here in Texas. We need it across the board in the United States.
Well, it's a short time, Dan, to the general election. That's May 1st, so less than a month away. I'll look forward to the new video. You're not shy. I can tell you that. I think you know that, but the audience needs to understand that. And you're right. We need fighters to go out and fight for the people in their district. Dan Rodimer, RODIMER.com. That's the website, danrodimer.com. Texas 6th Congressional District special election, May 1st. And Dan, I'll be watching for that video.
David, thank you so much. Let's make America Texas again. God bless Texas and God bless America.
I like that. Dan, thanks for the call, man, and joining me. Not thanks for the call, but thanks for joining me this morning. See, old habits come in there. Wow, it just happens. 866-95-PATRIOT, 957-2874. What about the folks in Texas? Look at all the issues. By the way, you do remember that you're all Neanderthals, right? The decision to open the state of Texas. And yet Texans haven't dropped on the side of the road, and tens of thousands aren't dying. And the only super spreader event seems to be the one that's happening at the border, potentially with illegal aliens. I like that. Make America Texas again. I had a lot of fun in Texas. 866-95-PATRIOT, 957-2874. I'll be right back.
This is the David Webb Show. David Webb.
Think about that moment. You get that alert. Your credit card company found suspicious charges on your card. That's simple identity theft. It's annoying, but they cover it. You're not responsible. The type of fraud you really need to worry about: home title theft. It's a devastating crime that takes you off your home's title. You're not covered by insurance or most identity theft programs, and that's why you need Home Title Lock. It's easy for cyber criminals to get to you. Here's how they do it. The title documents to homes are kept online. The thief forges your signature on a quitclaim deed stating you sold your home to the cyber thief, and he's the new owner. Then he borrows money using your home's equity and leaves you in debt. You won't know until late payment or eviction notices arrive, and the instant Home Title Lock detects someone tampering with your home's title, they help shut it down. So let's get you protected. Go to HometitleLock.com, register your address, see if you're already a victim, and then enter code radio for 30 free days of protection. That's promo code radio at HomeTitleLock.com.
Truth is the authority. This is the David Webb Show.
All right, we'll get back to your calls at 866-95. I had to think about that for a second. 95-Patriot. Voter suppression is un-American, at least in Texas. We'll see how it plays out on May 1st in that special election. But a great piece by Michael Abramson on Newsmax. Different story about black voting in Georgia. See, facts matter here, and if we're going to win against all of these woke corporations and these woke narratives and these, flat out lies. President Biden lied. Biden lied about the Georgia law. 4 Pinocchios, 4 of them from Glenn Kessler, the ombudsman at the Washington Post. That's no small task. But MLB, Coca-Cola, Delta Airlines, United Airlines, and all the other companies, PayPal and all this, who, by the way, require ID to participate in their economic or commercial activity. All are either ignorant or outright lying. Where does their wokeness get them? So an analysis that Michael Abramson did of election data tells a different story. From 1996 through 2020, the number of blacks registered to vote has increased in each election. So that's not suppression, clearly, if it keeps increasing, along with the population increase, so there's a corresponding increase. And in the same time period, the number of blacks voting in each election has increased except for slight declines in 2012 and 2016. And he also, from his analysis, has discovered that the percentage increase of blacks registered to vote and actually voting in Georgia is greater than the percentage increase of white voters. So blacks are voting in Georgia and have been voting long before Trump in increased numbers and percentages comparative to their white counterparts. So what's the game here? Why, by the way, and this analysis can be done, obviously it was, why then did the Republicans fail prior to Trump, or rather not prior to Trump, but during the Trump years in 2018, when they ended up with a consent decree following the lawsuit by Stacey Abrams, who, by the way, as I talked about back then, actually led the effort to restrict access to voter registration. Her group, Stacey Abrams' group, did that. But somehow they ended up with a consent decree, a change in the manner of elections. How and why did they fail if the facts, not narrative, the facts and the numbers show the opposite? There was no suppression, because if there was suppression, you would not have an increase in voting. If there was even an attempt at suppression, it failed. 2005. In 2005, Georgia voter ID passed for in-person voting. The change in the recent law, absentee voters must provide photo identification or some other suitable form of identification to be submitted with their absentee ballots. Democrats, of course, say, well, that's designed to suppress African-American voter registration and voting because, all black people vote absentee. Or do they vote in person? Again, where the numbers are increasing. So, while black voter registration and participation has increased in Georgia and continues to increase, The lies are being told about a law that has expanded voting, has, just like Colorado, by the way, restricted who can electioneer while you're online. They're not just handing you water. They electioneer. Let's be honest. This is what happens. It shouldn't happen. You have a right to go, already be informed, and cast your vote as you see fit. Neither side should be involved in that. But see, that's where they challenge or maybe counter the agenda by the leftists. Because they need those last moments to pressure the vote. Hey, you're a black man online. You're about to go in and vote. You're about 50 yards away, or you're about 10 feet away, or near the door, and here's your water. By the way, are you voting like a good little black man or woman? You're voting Democrat, aren't you? You're voting for the candidate? See that guy right there on the door? Yeah. Yeah, D. Yeah. You're a black man. You better vote. If you don't vote for him, you ain't black. That's Joe Biden. 866-95-PATRIOT, 957-2874. Let's see here. Bud, Virginia. Go ahead.
Hey, David. How you been?
I'm doing all right, Bud. What's up?
It's been a while since I talked to you. I kind of being discouraged with the election kind of got out of the things, but you know I'm a straight shooter and I'm a truth teller. Vietnam vet, patriot, Christian man. You know, in all that I've listened to, and for 20 years now I've been listening to this stuff, 10 years especially to you. And what I'm seeing behind the scenes with everybody you've talked to today, and the young man that you had on that was telling you that there's no way that we could take the Senate. Well, I agree with him. I mean, or the Congress, but I agree with him because if they were able with their evil, I mean, these are the people that will kill millions of children. They killed old people in New York and Michigan. These are the people that will do anything, like you've always said, for power and money. Well, these people behind the scenes are pulling this. They would have pulled the strings on Clinton had she won, and there's a reason why Obama never left D.C. And they're pulling the strings on Biden. And when they throw Biden out of office, they're going to definitely have more power with the ex-prostitute that's going to be our president. This stuff is so sick and sad and so evil that your listeners need to know there's only one hope. And I'll tell you, when I get in my barn at night and get a good glass of wine or a bottle of beer, I can sit there and know that the only hope we have left now with all this evil running our country is King Jesus himself. And if he doesn't choose to come back and save America, then America's toast. I mean, these people can steal a presidential election and 2 congressional or Senate elections in Georgia, and now they're turning all the what killed us was these algorithms and when they were stealing emails, because they got dirt on everybody. We're all sinners and fall short of the glory of the Lord, and they got dirt on everybody. That's why all these Republicans turn coat and go the other way every damn time, and nothing wins for the American people. President Trump was the only president ever that ever tried to help the American people and America itself. And now it's all toast because of these evil people, and there's only one person I know can stop it, and that's the Lord. And we're in trouble any other way, and I know you're smart enough to know that.
He gave us free will. He gave us the right to act, the ability to act. And it's up to us because, you know, and I go back to, you know, faith and deeds, right? We need to do the deeds. We need to take the task. We need to pass new voting laws. Yeah, they're going to try and change the system. They did change the system. They perverted it with mail-in balloting. They used COVID as the excuse when Mark Elias from Perkins Coie had been working on it since the Clinton loss to Trump. So they have literally been working for their cause. We need to work for our cause, and I'm a firm believer in, you know, earning the win, as you know, Bud, and we are going to have to do that. And yeah, all is on the table. Every method, every support system, every prayer, every action is on the table. We can't sit around. And look, Georgia is an example, maybe no other way to put it, of trying to right the wrong. Because they failed in Georgia. You got Ossoff and Warnock because Republicans in Georgia at many levels failed to counter Stacey Abrams, the leftists, the hardcore players and the corrupt Republicans who were involved, who thought, I don't know, whatever they thought, but maybe we'll just go along and we'll all get a little piece of, we'll keep the fight going. There's the failure in Georgia, but Georgia's state legislature stepped up. And I don't know, maybe Brian Kemp's trying to somehow recover himself from his prior failure, but it's going to take a lot more than this law to do that. 866-95-PATRIOT. Let's go to Rick, California. Rick, go ahead.
Hello, David. I called you in September, I think it was, and told you I had a Magnum of nickel and nickel I was going to drink when the night Trump got reelected. Well, I had to open it up about 2 months ago because I was in a state of depression, so I drank it, but I can't wait for him to come back. But anyway, the reason why I'm calling, there was a wedding down. I live down here in Imperial Valley, which is on the Mexican border. And the Barberworth Country Club and Hotel, there was a lot of wedding guests. There was a wedding last weekend in town. There was a lot of wedding guests from out of town that were staying at the hotel or had reservations for the hotel. Well, 6 days before the wedding, FEMA called Barberworth Country Club and Hotel and said, we're taking over all your rooms for the illegals. So they kicked all the U.S. citizens out of the reservations and brought in the illegals. They had to scrounge around for rooms all over. We're a small community here. And the American citizens had to go looking for other hotel rooms.
Wow. I don't, hang on a second. I'm opening up a note here. Give me the name of that hotel again.
Barberworth Country Club. Barberworth Country Club.
Okay. All right, let me just put that in my notes here. I'll look that up afterwards. Got it. Okay. All right, Rick, thank you.
You bet. Thanks, David.
All right. Yeah, that's why another reason one more example, I love this Patriot audience. Thanks for that, Rick. I'll take a look at what's going on here. But this is what they're doing all over the country, whether it's a military base, a hotel, giving Endeavor, a nonprofit out of Texas, $86.9 million for hotel rooms all over the country. And remember, one of the most onerous parts of this Biden plan, Biden-Harris, leftist, Democrat, Pelosi, I don't care who you want to attribute it to, Nadler, Schumer, Swalwell, Newsom in California, Cuomo, whatever, Murphy in New Jersey, you name it, whatever, the whole leftist open borders establishment is that these private organizations like Endeavor, once engaged, don't have to report to the state governors when they move illegals into your communities. You get stuck with the problem. They don't even have to tell your elected officials. Doesn't matter, Republican or Democrat. It's deliberately balkanizing the country. Buddy, Kentucky, go ahead.
Hey, David, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing good, but the blatant activities of this administration, I don't know, maybe I'm ceasing to be less surprised or ceasing to be surprised, period.
Well, the reason I wanted to call is I wanted to take everybody back to April and May of last year when this COVID thing just started happening, and we in Kentucky were kind of locked out of all the businesses and spent a lot of time in our homes, and watching the media narrative, and what they were saying is they were going to make access to voting much easier by allowing all these mail-in ballots and early absentee ballots. And I was right, but I was wrong. I looked at my wife at the time, and I said, this election is over. And she said, what do you mean it's over? And I said, well, anytime you're going to allow thousands upon thousands upon thousands of mail-in votes, all that does is create opportunity for those that will break the law to break the law. It's just more opportunities. And I told her at the time, I said, they've only got to steal 5 swing states. And then when you look at all the ballot dumps on election night, the narrative in the media was there was no widespread voter fraud and no evidence. And that is absolutely true. But there is a whole lot of red flags about very specific targeted voting precincts that had too many votes and ballot dumps. So they didn't have to win the whole state. All they had to do was identify a handful of precincts to dump the ballots in to turn the tide in the election. And then the media spins it as, well, there's no widespread voter fraud.
Well, the word widespread is what matters there. It's not that there isn't voter fraud. They put a greater range on it. And look, I'll even say this. Even in the instances where it wouldn't change the outcome, the words widespread is the distraction and the deflection from the issue of voter fraud. Because they can keep us in the argument over, well, would it have changed? Would it not have changed? Fact is, you're not supposed to change the system. You're not supposed to alter the system. So they alter the narrative, to your point. They alter the system, but they're smart. They're not just looking at this election. They're looking down the road. This is where the fight is, to bring the election system back closest to the best it can be. It will never be perfect. Just fact, never will be perfect. And we have to take the win that we just got and multiply it. We also have the Mark Brnovich case versus DNC. We'll get a decision from the Supreme Court in June on ballot harvesting. We need these fights, and we have got to have them. And the Republican Party better get off their ass and start having those fights. There's no other way to put it. Engage at every level. You want the support of the people? Well, you better deliver. 866-95-PATRIOT, 957-2874. I'm going to take a look at this country club when I'm in a break, see what's going on here. But this is what they're doing. They're balkanizing the country, moving their agenda forward. They don't care what you think, and they have to back in the support and the willful ignorance or, frankly, omission of the media in the reporting. They don't need to go crazy. They don't need to attack the bread. Just report it for what it is. But that doesn't fit the narrative. 866-95-PATRIOT. I'll be right back.
David Webb on the juggernaut of conservative talk. This is Sirius XM Patriot 125.
So I'm trying to book a room at the Barbara Worth Convention Center, Hotel and Convention Center. Golf resort. Looks pretty nice down there in Holtville. If I've got the right position. First, it wouldn't let me do it. And then apparently there's some nights available. Just thought I'd try and see if they'd let me in. Couldn't for a couple days. I don't know. Well, got to make sure those illegal aliens who are crossing all those distances to get into the country to be trafficked, along with all the other things that come, are quite comfortable. I wonder what the homeless situation is in El Centro, California. I should check into that, because I'm sure some of those homeless people would like to have a hotel bed for the night. 866-95-PATRIOT, lightning round. Jason, Nevada, go ahead.
Hello, Dave. Can you hear me?
Hey, Jason. Yep, I'm here.
Dave, I called about your last guest, Dan Ronheimer. Well, he ran in Nevada, and this is why I think we have this conflict in the Republican Party, is we got guys that come here, talk like Nevadans, try to run here, fail, and then the next thing you know, they show up in Texas. Now, I don't know Dan. I just know what was in the news, domestic issues with his girlfriend, and I think he was investigated for punching a guy, something weird. But that's not even the issue. The issue is we send these Republicans all over the country to try and win seats, and we're backing them. Why?
Well, actually, the we are the people in the district, and people, congressmen, senators, well, not so much senators, state legislators who move, whatever reason they move, even if it's to run, still up to the district. That's the bottom line on this. It's still up to the district, and I can't address it because I don't have knowledge. Neither does anyone really going forward or backwards on this. But in that district right now, where it is a Republican district, if there was a candidate capable of taking the district, they didn't show up because he's outpacing all of those Republican candidates in the race.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. It just surprises me that there's not somebody from that district that can't stand up for it.
Again, this is what I just said. If there's no one stepping up and going out, and I don't know every reason he moved to the district. We talked about the race off air and on air. I tend to not ask people their personal choices, beyond what I would call interview level, because that's just something they can offer or not. But if they have someone in the district, then they would be the Republican candidate. If they don't, I want a Republican in there. I guess that's just that simple.
No, I understand you. I understand that. It surprised me to hear that he moved from Nevada so quickly after losing here. Now all of a sudden he shows up in Texas. It's just kind of odd. And this is why we have a conflict in the Republican Party. Because we have
I wouldn't see that as the major. I would see that as just a part of the reality. People have won and lost races. Trump holds the plateau, or whatever you want to call it, as the first person to ever step in for the biggest office and win it first time around. That's not often the case, Jason. Let me go to Bob in Long Island. Lightning round. Go ahead, Bob.
Hey, Dave. How you doing? I was listening to the gentleman who was talking about Kemp and Georgia and the legislature, and how the legislature seems to be doing the right thing and trying to straighten up the voting laws. But, what gets you so aggravated is whether it's at the state level, where they do have the proper laws, where they did, I believe, in Pennsylvania, but the governor or whoever it was above said, and the local state courts just went around the legislature anyway, and that happens at the federal level too. So how can you get anywhere under those circumstances? I mean, there doesn't seem to be any mechanism when it comes to the House of Representatives or the Senate, or our founding fathers didn't put in any type of punitive law mechanism that would stop these people from just doing whatever they want, no matter what the law really is.
Sure, they did. Actually, one of the most brilliant parts of our system is that mechanism is us. It's whether we are an active mechanism. Look, if, let's say, Congressman A or Representative at the state level B go in and they don't do the job and they don't pass the right laws under the Constitution, state Constitution, under the U.S. Constitution, we are the mechanism. And the reason you don't suppress, in my view, by law, how you gauge who's allowed to run or not, is that you have to have a republic where the people are in charge. And you can't do those two things together if that's there. Look, I hope Kemp is, in my view, I'm no fan of Kemp for his failures in the past. But if this is a way that the legislature and the governor have stepped up and done the right thing, then let's see what he does going forward. It can't just be one thing. It has to be more than one. They have to fix this system. They still have a state budget allocation to account for. Remember, and I don't know what they did with it, but when Dominion came in, they offered to do the job for $107 million instead of the $150 million allocated to fix their voting system. There's $43 million that needs to be accounted for because you've already spent, and I assume they went by the contract and it was $107 million. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm off a little. But let's see what they do with that other $43 million or whatever is left, since it was allocated to fix the actual system. Okay, step one. You got the right law passed. You've expanded, you've solidified, you've made it so the system represents the voter is verified. I like that. Now, go further. Matt, Alabama, 866-95-PATRIOT. Go ahead, Matt.
Hey, David. I love your show. I love what you do for us every day. I want to talk about trying to take from the Democrats' playbook when Trump first took office with the constant lawsuits against things that Trump was doing that were constitutional, that did make sense and were within the law. But they just sued and got their way. Well, one of Trump's big bragging points is how many federal judges we got and how we got 3 Supreme Court nominees. Why, or if we are, why aren't we hearing about it? And if we're not, why aren't we taking all these unconstitutional executive orders and things to court and rushing them through and getting injunctions?
$1 million question, Matt. And so far, I have not gotten a satisfactory answer out of I would say, any but maybe 1 or 2 congressmen I've talked to since the beginning of this year. The AGs have stepped up, but there's more. It's not just Keystone XL, not just what Mark Brnovich did with ballot harvesting. That went to the Supreme Court. That was already in the works. Not just the other executive orders on immigration, but we need to see more action on this. I'm not satisfied. I want to know where these, call it right-sided or maybe just call it American-sided organizations are taking on this administration.
Okay, can I offer suggestions? Leroy,
sure.
Is it Leroy 2.0? Is that the one that's always on Hannity? He used to be a Democrat.
Leo Terrell.
Leo.
I think,
Leo Terrell. Okay. He's outspoken. He's on the shows all the time, but he's ACO, he's a civil rights attorney. He is willing to help, and he knows the Democrat side of things. See, because I think Republicans approach things too logically. It's like, well, that's not right, so the judges should side with us. But activist judges get emotional, and they like to showboat too. So he knows the tactics. So maybe have a think tank, have him join with Tom Fenton or someone, and just put our heads together, figure out the plan of attack, and get some of this stuff stopped, because it's ridiculous.
Yeah, there are a couple more organizations that have come online to what you're talking about, to either both hold them accountable, FOIA the records, get it out there. I haven't seen enough yet. Russ Vogt has one on the various issues, cultural, immigration, that America First agenda. They have a C3 and a C4. So we should see more activism out of them, Matt. But it's going to take a little time to see that. In the meantime, state legislatures are in session all over this country. And I can't see why, when they've been given enough time, they don't have proposals, bills on the table in committee brought up for votes. Every state, even if you think you have the right voter ID law, needs to make sure that you go further to make sure it's effective. New Hampshire is one of those states. It has a few holes in its absentee balloting system. There's a twist to it. It's pretty good, but there's still a couple of holes. Go back and fix the holes. You really want to make sure everybody in America votes the way they, should be allowed to under the Constitution? Do it. You have a right to cast your vote however you cast it. I want to make sure it's you. Andrew Wilkow's got it next.